What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to For All Nerd Kind. I'm your host, Cousin Ryan, and join me as always, my great friend and co-host, my homie, Josh. How's it going, buddy?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. You know what? It's going to be our new tradition. We're going to go ahead and take our shots before we get into the show. So cheers to you, bud.
Cheers to you. Woo!
So I hope everyone liked the new intro. I am a huge fan of it, with you being Superman, me as Iron Man. It's my new favorite thing in the world. So I'm excited to see how we change it as we go, because I know we're going to have updates as we do this. So it's going to be really, really fun. But how have you been, man? It's been a couple weeks since we've talked, and I know the last time, the first show we did, we talked about all the things that we're going to do, and the first episode we're doing today is The Flash. But I want to know how you've been. What have you been up to?
Dude, first I want to say thank you to everybody who has seen the intro show. I put it all over Facebook that we got this many views, that many views. So anybody watching, thank you. My God, there were some people who reposted. Big shout out to you guys. I knew we were going to have a little bit of a following, but in terms of almost 300 people watching, I'm like, I don't even like 300 people.
Within a week.
I do like about 300 people now, because those who watched, even if you just clicked on it and hit like, or just checked it out because I said, hey, come take a look. Thank you. Awesome. Good, man. See what we talked 2 weeks ago. See what? So many movies have come out.
So many things have happened.
So many things. We'll jump into that, obviously. Just trying to stay busy, trying to help create new artwork for you and get the show even bigger and better. It's going to be, so everybody knows, probably going to be different as often as I can make it.
As often as we can.
We're going to try to do this episode a couple times a month, so it gives me weeks of time just to throw some shit together. Like, the ridiculous photo of us is ridiculously awesome. But I can do better. I can do so much better. But I think by the time that we've got a couple episodes in, I think I'm going to just knock this shit out of the park.
Well, I'm excited. I know everyone else is going to be excited. The people I've talked to who've watched the show, they love what we have planned with the guests that we have coming up as well. But before we get into the main topic of this episode, I want to roll into the first segment that we do, which is what we're going to call the Nerd News Network. And, and as we go, we'll talk about the things that have happened in the nerddom over the past few weeks. First and foremost, when this comes out, it'll be about a week later, but Kraven the Hunter, the trailer came out recently. And I watched it again today to prep for the show, and I love Aaron Taylor Johnson, so I'm excited for it. It's different than what Kraven is in the comic books, like by a lot, but I love the feel of it. I love what Marvel does with these characters. Granted, I think this is a Sony production, if I remember correctly, so we won't get the typical Spider-Man Kraven type scenario. But what are your thoughts? When I know you watched it, and you and I we told each other not to talk about it until we got onto this, so I wanted to know your input.
Well, like I said, it's like I was telling you yesterday, it's set in that kind of universe with Morbius and Venom, and like I was telling you yesterday, the Venom, Tom Hardy, I love Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy is always awesome. Venom, I feel like he's a little silly, but they did that for the movie, clearly. All the humor and stuff, but Venom, I think, looks great. Talked about Carnage. Carnage himself, I think, in terms of comic book characters, Carnage always scared the shit out of me.
Carnage is intense.
Did you ever play that video game, that Sega game? It was a Spider-Man. I think it was like a Carnage Spider-Man game.
Oh, yeah.
Freaked me out. But so I love Carnage. Carnage is legitimately one of the characters who are just insanely crazy and insane. And then Morbius, I tried Morbius. I didn't like Morbius. The fact they're making villain movies, villain's only as good as the hero, and they have to make these guys out into the hero. So, like you said, Kraven, it seems like he's trying to stop the hunting of animals, just hunting men. But
Yeah.
so but again, the cast, Aaron Taylor Johnson was awesome, and Bullet Train as
Great
was he
movie.
Tangerine or was he Lemon? I think he was Lemon.
I think it was Lemon.
Yeah,
Tangerine, guy, yeah.
but he was awesome, and obviously he's kick ass. He's Quicksilver, so he's just knee deep. Let's see, him and Oscar Isaac have got to be competing for most comic book roles, right?
Well, and so I want to get into that real quick. I won't get too into the weeds with this one, but Aaron Taylor Johnson, I'm a huge fan. He was awesome in Kick Ass. I love the fact that he did Kick Ass and did a graphic novel type movie like that. But seeing him as the Speedster in the Avengers, Age of Ultron, it was amazing. I thought he had such a great character arc, and with what happened to him, what sucked because I loved his character. I love Aaron Taylor Johnson, but seeing him come back into this world as Kraven and just seeing how jacked he is for that trailer, and it's gonna be badass. I'm really excited, and they have a star-studded cast. I mean, I love the fact that
Russell Crowe
is his dad. Coming from Zeus in the Thor movie and then going to this, it's exciting to see these big names take on a Marvel Sony character role. So I'm excited to see what that movie does.
It's rated R, so that's going to be there's going to be plenty of gore because there's a Red Band trailer. I think I said that to you. But yeah, it looks good. I mean, they're going to give you an interpretation of the Rhino, and clearly it looks like he transforms into the Rhino. It's not some big stupid suit, which I'm okay with.
But I really, for those out there who have seen the Spider-Man movies, I would have loved to see Paul Giamatti as the Rhino because I thought that was fucking hilarious. The whole concept of it. But we never got that. We never got the Sinister Six, even though they teased Kraven at the end of the Spider-Man movie, the Amazing Spider-Man. But it is what it is. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get these two amazing characters and some bad guys. We're not getting the Turtle. From what it seems like, we're getting the Rhino, which is fine. I love the Rhino.
Chameleon's in it, from what I.
We're not getting all of that stuff, but I'm excited to see what what Kraven can do with Aaron Taylor Johnson. So, for those of you who haven't seen the trailer, go check it out. It's been out for about a week as this airs. It's amazing. Leave in the comments what you guys thought of it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it a lot, especially when that movie comes out. It's going to be something that we talk about.
October.
October. But we got a lot of movies and some good stuff coming in between them that we'll talk about. I was talking to my cousin Moose, and he was talking about doing a show with us, and I told him we're not doing just movies. So I want everyone who's watching to be aware that we're going to talk about just the nerddom in general of everything. So we're going to jump into the comic book stuff, because the next thing I want to bring up for the network, the Nerd News Network, is the Emma Frost and Tony Stark getting married in the Marvel universe in the comic books. I'm excited. I'm insanely excited for that. I know I mentioned it to you the other day. Because Tony's always with someone, and the misconception is Pepper Potts was not really a love interest in the world of him. That was Happy Hogan's wife and ex-wife, and it was just Tony's assistant. So the movie's changed again. That's why it's a different world. It's Earth 99999. No matter what, Kevin Feige can argue that all he wants with me, but whatever. But what do you think? Because Emma Frost didn't get a whole lot of screen time in the X-Men movies, and she's an amazing character. She's very powerful, and I think it's great that she's ended up with Tony.
I haven't dived deep into any Marvel comics lately, which I probably should now. But because last time, yesterday I mentioned to you, I was like, I thought Tony was with Hellcat, but I read that she turned him down to get married. And now Emma is going to marry him, it's weird, but it's cool to me because Emma, like I said yesterday, Emma's always fucking with Scott, with Cyclops. Right. And so it's kind of refreshing to see her fucking with somebody's mind, because clearly she's got to be messing with his mind somehow, some way. There's never been a time where she's been interested in somebody she doesn't play little mind games with him. So it'll be cool to see. It'll be cool to, anytime the X-Men deal with somebody who's not an X-Man, not a mutant. That's just why I love like Avengers versus X-Men, Avengers versus X-Men versus Eternals. Like, it's always fun to see them dip out of their realm, because team ups are always cool, but like it's always cool when you have mutants with Avengers and vice versa, and it'll be interesting. I'll definitely pick it up and read it. I think that comes out in September.
Yep, and I'm really excited for that because one, I'm obviously a big Tony Stark fan, Iron Man everywhere in my room, but we're getting with the movies itself in the MCU, we're finally getting that crossover of X-Men to Avengers, and the mutants are finally involved with what was it, Ms. Marvel. That set up that whole timeline for that, set up the whole mutant introduction. So I'm excited for all of that. So I just like the fact that the comic books are still going with it, and the movies are going to hopefully catch up soon. But so for all of you out there, look for that comic book series. It's an Iron Man series and an Emma Frost series. So it's two different comic books. They're going linear. So make sure you pick those up, read those, check them out, and let us know what you guys think. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is, even though this will air next week, tomorrow, Secret Invasion finally launches. The 21st of June, and I am so excited for Secret Invasion. I'm hoping they do it well. I'm a huge fan of the comic book series. I'm a huge fan of what it does. I'm bringing back Nick Fury, War Machine's in it. I know we're going to watch and talk about it, but what are your thoughts on that? Like Secret Invasion, what do you know?
I know the story arc. So for those who don't know, it was a Skrull invasion, which was, you see that in Captain Marvel a little bit. You see the Skrulls, you get introduced to the Skrulls. You see that at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, the Skrulls posing as Nick Fury and Maria Hill. It's going to be difficult. I'm completely open, but in the comics, it was what superheroes were a Skrull, and that was always the big, that splash page of like, guess what? He's not human. He's a Skrull. So the fact that there are very few comic book heroes in it, I'm still open to it. Nick Fury is awesome, and it looks like it's going to be mainly almost like a Winter Soldier kind of thing in terms of them getting infiltrated and finding out who works for who's under who. It'll be good. I'm definitely excited. I wish that it could have been like a movie, fit into one of the phases, but I'm okay with it. I hope Samuel L. Jackson always knocks it out of the park.
Well, and I guess we'll really see on how they do this, because for all we know, they could set up the next portion of the phase with this TV series and leave the ending on a cliffhanger that rolls into the next movie. We've seen them do it before, especially with how they're starting to introduce older characters like Daredevil and the Punisher and stuff like that into the movies. At least they're saying they're going to. You never know. We never know how the ending of this series is going to roll into a theatrical release. So I'm hoping it does too, because I'm a big fan of the Skrull invasion and what they can do. But we'll see. We'll see what it provides. Starting tomorrow. So again, for those of you out there, watch it. Leave your comments. Let us know your feedback on what you thought of the first of Secret Invasion. I'm excited. Disney Plus they're rocking it right now. I love
so
it.
Good.
Last thing I want to talk about before we move on is the big news that came out today. Marvel is skipping Comic-Con this year. So it was announced that Marvel will not be at the San Diego Comic-Con. That is a big freaking deal, because they've had the biggest thing at Hall H last year. And it makes you wonder, what's happening. I know they're delaying stuff. There was news of delays for the Daredevil movie again. There's talk about other delays that are coming with the writer's strike, and on the heels of that, there's a talk of the Screen Guild, or Screen Actors Guild strikes coming soon. So it's a big deal that Marvel's skipping Comic-Con. It's a giant deal.
It is huge. It makes way for James Gunn and DC, which we'll dive into that. But but if DC doesn't show up in full force with that, they're going to blow a huge opportunity. I actually haven't seen that Marvel's not going to be been so busy, but that's huge. I would think, because like you said, they just pushed Avengers, Secret Wars, and the Kang Dynasty by a full year. They moved up Deadpool by like 6 months, and they pushed out something else. But I think for those who don't know, the Writers Guild of America, who pretty much do screenplays, do rough drafts of scripts, everything. They're on strike.
Yep.
So this happened, this had to be like 10, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely affected movie quality. Like one thing I remember is Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. That was hugely impacted by the writer's strike, and it showed because that movie was awful.
Yeah.
It wasn't good, and it was just during that time. And I think Iron Man 2 was part of that that was affected during the writer's strike. So there's a lot of things that go with that writer's strike because, like right now, the Superman Legacy script has been turned in, and they're good to start production, but they can't rewrite anything. Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds can't make up his own lines. He
Can't
can't
ad-lib.
Yeah, so that makes it hard because you get your script changes happen all the time. They happen on the fly, and you can't do that now. And they're on strike mainly because to get compensated, but they're also worried about AI, which is such a weird concept. They're worried about like chatbot and stuff being used to make scripts, and clearly it'd be easy to see, but you can easily make a script through chatbot, I'd imagine, and then make your tweaks to it, as a director. So
Right.
They're worried that their jobs are going to get phased out, which, I mean, you got to get paid. And they happen, like I said, 10, 15 years ago. Now another one's happening. It's the changing of the times because AI wasn't around back then. They just wanted more money because movies were getting huge. Like
Right.
Marvel was taking off with their stuff, and then Transformers on screen, and so many things were happening. And they're like, we want more money because you're bringing in billions of dollars and we're not getting enough of it. So it's interesting. So the fact that Marvel's skipping could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I have no idea.
Well, and we'll see how it pans out. Hopefully the strike doesn't last much longer because it's affecting a lot of things that are going on right now. Movies, TV series, all that stuff. And these guys do need to get paid. These writers do deserve to be paid what they're worth. And I think to piggyback off what you talked about too, because that's a good point about AI, is those of you who are watching, if AI is something that you're nerdy about, come on and talk with us about it, because I would love to talk more about an AI and how it's going to affect us in the future, because that's something great to be nerdy about. We don't know the full potential of what AI is going to take. We don't know what's going to happen. It's not in its infancy anymore. It's a growing trend, but it could touch so many things. So for those of you out there, please come talk to us. We'd love to chat more about that. But it's just the last few days, just in the news that we've heard, the things that we just brought up right now. I mean, a lot has happened, and so much is going to happen before the next show. So we'll make sure to keep everyone informed of what we hear, what we know. We'll go into detail about those things. But those were the 4 or 5 things that I really wanted to bring up today because they are they're big. They're really big things that are happening right now, in the nerd world. So
talk about it in the chat, everybody. I'll respond. Ryan will respond. I'll make Ryan respond.
We will talk to you. And I love it. Again, come talk to us. If you want to come on talk AI, let's talk AI, because I don't know a whole lot about it. I know things, I research and I read, but I want to talk to someone who has more in-depth detail about it. And, we can talk about those type of things. So again, talk nerdy to me. That's what I want. So any other news you wanted to bring up, Josh, before we move on to the next thing?
I think you covered all the good ones so far.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and go into the main topic of this, and is The Flash. We just had the movie come out, and we are not going to give away too much spoilers. I know it's going to be, the movie will be out for 2 weeks by this point, around a week and a half, 2 weekends. So hopefully a lot of people had the chance to see it. But there's a lot of things we want to talk about without giving away too many spoilers. And first and foremost, we want to give what our thoughts were on the movie. And you and I talked, because I saw it the day of the release that morning. You saw it just a couple days ago. And we both agree it was, for lack of a better term, it was lackluster. It was missing a lot. It wasn't the greatest. And it didn't hit at the box office like everyone thought. It didn't bomb, but it didn't do well.
Oh, it was It was garbage. I'm sorry. I hate to shit on it. I really honestly do because I went in with an open mind. I went in excited, and within the first 10 minutes, I was already let down. Just so for those who don't know, which probably a lot of people don't know, is WB has been a shit show for the last 10 years. Without going into too much, because I could talk about it all day, they have been throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. They tried Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. Great Hal Jordan, terrible movie. You haven't seen him since. Hasn't been mentioned, nothing. Then they did, I think they started with Man of Steel. So they gave Zack Snyder a good chance. They gave him a really good chance with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Justice League. Soon as Justice League failed because of all the drama behind Zack Snyder leaving and Joss Whedon taking over, doing reshoots. For those of you who've seen Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League, completely different movies. So, but they released the worst one in theaters and it didn't do well. So then they said, okay, we're going to stop. We're not going to do this anymore for a little bit. Need to kind of regroup. They did the Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 1 was great. 2 was garbage. Aquaman did really good, but it's got a sequel coming out in 6 months, and you haven't even seen any screenshots from that. So now they've decided, because they've never had a Kevin Feige. Kevin Feige, for those who don't know, is leader of Marvel. He runs Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anything you want to do, you want to make a show, go talk to him. He'll tell you what you can and can't do and what he wants you to throw in to make it part of the bigger arc kind of thing. They never had that. Now they have James Gunn and Peter Safran, who have been officially given the reins to DC. So now James Gunn and Peter Safran are the Kevin Feige of DC. So now everybody was curious what they're going to do. They said, we're going to reboot it. Everything's done. We're not going to tell you what's done, what's coming. We're telling you what's coming, but we're not saying who's sticking around, who's not sticking around. So now that that is on the horizon, first movie of that new universe would be Superman Legacy. They didn't know what to do with the Flash. Right. There's so many reshoots. We'll get into the ending towards the end, but there were so many reshoots. Ezra Miller had all of his drama going on. For those who don't know, just do a quick Google of Ezra Miller and you'll see everything. But I just thought in the end, they said, let's throw every cameo at the movie and let's see what sticks and let's see what gets people in the seats.
All right, real quick before we move on, because I'll cut this out, but your mic keeps going in and out. Like you're quiet and louder. So I don't know what was going on.
How about that?
Way better. Okay. Way better. Okay. And so, and you're right. You need to Google Ezra Miller. And the thing about, for me, is when I saw Ezra Miller as the Flash in the Justice League, I was excited because they gave this darker persona to the Flash, which is what I wanted. Because for those of you who maybe have watched it or not, but the Arrowverse on WB, Grant Gustin was an amazing Flash. Don't get me wrong. He did a great job, but I wanted for the cinematic universe a darker Flash than what Grant Gustin could give us. And Ezra Miller kind of gave me that vibe in the Justice League and when he had the crossover in the Flash for WB. Whatever they did to this script, that wasn't the case. It was too comic-y. It was, and not even like comic book, but like too much comedy with it, too much of a weird Barry Allen situation. And they try to make it too funny, especially the beginning. That hurt. The first 20 minutes of that movie was too much. And for those of you who see it, there's a scene in there. We'll call it the baby scene, and it was just unnecessarily comical, I guess, from what it was. It could have been so much better. We keep reading that the CGI was made to be the way it was, but it looked shoddy. It really did for the age that we live in and what's capable out there. It looked not the best. And I wanted to like it because I love Ezra Miller. And it goes back to it too. If you go Google Ezra Miller, you look back and see that the trouble that was going on, you could see it in the reshoots. You can tell when there was a reshoot because Ezra looked and acted different in certain scenes, especially later in the movie goes to where you had this specific idea of Ezra as the Flash, Barry Allen, and then the later scenes you're like, something's different.
Mhm.
The portrayal of the Flash changed, and you can tell. And I wasn't a fan of it. And it was not what I wanted it to be. There's a few things in there that made me somewhat happy with it, nods to what the real Barry Allen the Flash is, but it left a lot to be wanted, and it makes me really scared for the DCU with that director getting the nod for another movie.
You go ahead and tell them what movie it is. I know you're excited.
I'm not excited. You go ahead and talk about it because I don't want to talk about it.
He's going to be the director of The Brave and the Bold, which is going to be a Batman movie centered around his long-lost son, Damian. And it'll have more characters from the Bat family that you've never seen on screen. And with the way he did The Flash, I do not know if he could handle the dark and light tones of a Batman movie. I mean, he did great with Michael Keaton. I will give him credit for using Michael Keaton, which I read today that if Michael Keaton said no, they weren't going to make this movie. So, God damn it. That work?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what it is. I might have to return it. But they did great with Michael Keaton. He said if he said no, they weren't going to do the movie, which I wish he would have said no, because his introduction I didn't like. I'll give him that.
Oh my God, it was so dumb.
It was so bad. But when he put on the suit, ever since he put on the suit, he was great.
Yeah.
His fight scene that he had in there was amazing. Like I remember looking at my wife and saying that was awesome. Like that was cool. But that was like the only praise I had for the movie, because if Michael Keaton was in the movie, they would have been smart to not do it, because if he wasn't in the movie, I'm hard pressed to say I'd go see it, because Barry Allen himself or just Ezra Miller himself, I wasn't sold.
So yeah, and I mean, I know I said I was sold. I was a big fan of it. I wanted to see the Flash because I'm a big fan of the Flash. Barry Allen's character in general is just amazing, and but the unfortunate thing is I know people aren't going to agree with me on this who've seen it, but yes, Michael Keaton did an amazing job as the Batman, but I really think Sasha Calle fucking stole that movie, and I know it's going to be a hot take for some people, but just the idea of a Supergirl, a very dark, edgy Supergirl, was perfect. I loved it. Again, the WB for the TV series, I get who they brought in for Supergirl to do that. I mean, they brought in a lot of High School Musical people, or not High School Musical, but Glee people to come into the WB to do these things and make it very light and somewhat campy, in my opinion. But Sasha Calle, is that dark edginess of it, and just her. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a very dark, but then again, I'm an emo at heart, so I think that's kind of why I love the whole emo edge of what she brought to Supergirl. I would love to see her do more. I'd love to see her do more of a Supergirl type-esque movie in a darker cinematic universe that DC needs.
Yeah, she did good. I will give her that. The fact that they changed it from Superman to Supergirl, it is what it is. I'll live with it, because for those who don't know, this is based off of a comic. Mm-hmm. It's based off of Flashpoint, right?
Yeah.
And it tells the story of how Barry goes back in time to save his mom. When he gets back, everything's different. Same premise, but Batman is no longer Bruce Wayne. It's Thomas Wayne. The changes Barry made it so that Bruce got shot. Bruce got shot. He died. His mom turns into the Joker. And Thomas Wayne turns into a casino owning, almost Punisher like Batman. He had red eyes. It was fucking cool. so they gave everybody in the Justice League something to do. Like Atlanteans and Amazonians were at war, tearing apart the world. Cyborg was working for the government. Superman was locked away like Sasha was, and he was super skinny, and they ended up saving him. So the changes that they made, I mean, how much potential did you have already with Jeffrey Dean Morgan as an old Punisher Batman? Like that would have been so fucking cool. Like,
well, and so that's what's funny is you mentioned that because so Jeffrey Dean Morgan and then Maggie, I can't remember her last name.
From Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead, they were the parents of Bruce Wayne in an earlier iteration of Batman, and I think having that Flashpoint kind of Joker Batman is basically because she, again, like you said, she goes crazy, becomes the Joker. Thomas Wayne becomes Batman. And, they meet at the anniversary of Bruce's death together, and he can't kill her. She can't kill him. It's a cool idea. So I would love to have seen that kind of Flashpoint. I would love to have seen that kind of multiverse as well, the idea of that. But we didn't get it. We didn't get that for this Flash. Everyone's going to have their own opinions. I know I saw the scores on Rotten Tomatoes are a lot higher than I thought they were going to be. But then again, after what I heard about what Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb has been doing with their voting process, I don't trust them.
No, not at all. So I think what ruined the movie from the get-go for me was WB tried everything to hype up this movie because that's all they had. That's all they have. They have Aquaman, but like I said, nobody knows what's going on with that movie. But WB got James Cameron to say it was a great movie. It was a great movie. Like it was a great superhero movie. And James Cameron, I don't know if anybody knows, but he hates comic book movies. He does not like them.
He talks shit on Marvel hard.
Exactly. So the fact that James Cameron says your Flash movie is good, I don't know if I believe you. Tom Cruise got quoted saying it was the best superhero movie he's ever seen. So you take two people like that who clearly know movies, one hates comic book movies, and for them to say that, I'm a little skeptical because they made it seem like The Flash was going to be the greatest comic book movie ever made. And to me, if you're going to throw that movie in the hat, you got to throw in like Endgame. You got to throw in Infinity War. Like those ones knocked it out of the park. Dark Knight. I mean, those are the greatest comic book movies ever. And The Flash, this movie of The Flash does not belong up there.
So, and I'm glad you said that because for those of you watching, go check out, there's a group on YouTube. They're friends of mine. They've been on my show. They've been on a few other shows that we've done. The Movie Hero Network on YouTube. We did a ranking of the best comic book movies, me and Moose. And Avengers Infinity War is normally in the top 3 movies. Every time we do kind of some kind of ranking battle, it always is the best. And it's because that it ends on such a downer where the villain won, and it was a dark ending. What I could have loved for this Flash movie and is what I wanted was the villain for me. I think I called the villain, when I say villain, in the very beginning. I called it who it was as soon as he ran into the Speed Force and traveled through time. I knew who that villain was. It was easy to figure out. I would have loved to seen a Reverse Flash. Personally, give me an Eobard Thawne, because for those of you who, and I'm not ruining anything, because if anyone who's read the comics or anything, Eobard Thawne is who killed the Flash mom, is who killed Nora West, or Nora Allen, and and so the whole premise of the movie, I don't know, man, it left so much. I wanted so much. Go see it though. I mean, we're gonna shit on it the rest of the time that we're on this, because I know we've talked about how bad we didn't like it, and there was just some saving qualities, but the ending was fucking ridiculous. That whole ending was ridiculous. The cameos they showed, it left me teary-eyed because of a special cameo that came in. It was just one special cameo because he was the greatest. He what started superheroes and Superman kind of thing. It brought a tear to my eye, but the rest of it was just like, what the fuck, man?
So if we're not going to spoil the cameos, I guess I'll keep it vague. Um, to me, if you have a Flash movie, your cameo should revolve around the Flash. Like they focused on
Other
two,
characters.
three other characters.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. But if you're gonna have a Flash movie, there's been a couple different iterations of the Flash on screen. Why not put them in there? Like I thought Grant Gustin deserved to be in there,
Especially since Ezra did a cameo on his show. Bring Grant Gustin is. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Like he just their show just ended. Give him a send off with just show him running. And I will spoil one. They did do a Flash cameo.
Jay Garrick.
They did a generic version of Jay Garrick, who looked like Teddy Sears. For those who don't know, he was on CW's Flash, and he played a villain, but he pretended to be Jay Garrick in the show. But he looked exactly like Teddy Sears, and it recently came out. He said, "I'm not in it. Thank you, but I'm not in it."
Yeah.
And then it just came out that it was a generic version of Jay Garrick. You could have gotten John Wesley Shipp from the 90s show. You could have gotten Grant Gustin. You could have thrown in an animated version for all of I care. But you focused on the wrong characters. Like, Barry should know that obviously he knows other multiverses, but they made it. He even said it at the beginning of the movie, like, I'm happy to be the backup Justice Leaguer that you guys want to use.
Mm-hmm.
So why not show all the other Flashes from the different multiverses and show, like, okay, I'm a big deal. Like, but the way they did it, I didn't like how they showed the multiverse. I didn't like that large kind of spherical jumbotron that they had for it. Like the fact he had to run back, where it was silly. It didn't work for me. I think CW's multiverse portrayal was spot on. It was just him running and getting glimpses of multiverse. Like, but in this movie, they went a completely different way. I didn't like it.
They could have given us the real Jay Garrick from the WB, because if I remember correctly, he's played Jay Garrick more than most people have ever played that character. Yep. So, and I agree, the multiverse and how they explained it and how Barry ran in the Speed Force when he was going back in time without the cosmic treadmill, which again bothers the shit out of me, because in the comic books, when he travels through time, he did it for the first time without the cosmic treadmill. He did it on accident.
Yep.
There was just so much to be needed, so much that was just ridiculous in my opinion.
Yeah, the cameos, like I told you beforehand, like when we were predicting how the movie would go, I had said that I think The Flash is going to be just a cameo-filled movie to get people in seats. I mean, the biggest cameo was Michael Keaton. That he did good. I'll give him that. I liked him.
No. The biggest, I don't think the biggest cameo is Michael Keaton. I'm not going to give away the biggest cameo, but it was, in my opinion, it wasn't Michael Keaton. It was the very end of that movie, the cameo. So, and it made me happy. But what's funny and what sucked the most was I was really excited because for those watching, if you haven't seen it, there's only one extra credit scene at the end of the movie, and it was bullshit. It did nothing. It was fucking stupid, in my opinion. They could have done so much and led up to more. But again, like we mentioned earlier in the show, on the top of this conversation, with James Gunn coming in and taking over the reins of the DCEU, they wiped out. This movie means nothing in the grand scheme.
That's what's so infuriating. Everything you saw in that movie means absolutely nothing. It's not going anywhere. It'll never go anywhere unless James Gunn comes out of left field and says, Ezra Miller is my best friend and I want to keep him in. But the movie goes absolutely nowhere. It even leaves you confused as to where he's at, what he's doing, what happens now. My biggest issue, I think, with the movie in general was they did their best to explain the Flash. I'll give them that. They, the whole running super speeds and having the right clothes and stuff and how much he needs to eat. They fleshed out the Flash's abilities the best they could, but like Michael Keaton, why why was he retired Batman? Why did he know the multiverse better than anybody?
Mm-hmm.
And which, by the way, he tries to shit on Marvel's explanation.
That was the first thing we talked about after I saw it. I was like, really, you got to take a shot at Marvel's explanation of the multiverse and the timeline? Like, fuck you, come on.
Yeah, like learn to pick your battles because your version of explaining the multiverse, silly, very silly, and a clear jab at Marvel. But that's neither here nor there. Like I said, they didn't flesh anybody out but the Flash. You know, I wanted to know why Michael Keaton was the way he was. I wanted to know. I wanted them to let people know why Kara was put away like that. You know, clearly you can come up with your assumptions. You know, an alien that powerful. You know, don't expose them to sun ever, red sun radiation, so that she doesn't get her powers. And then showed her kind of transform when she got into the light. You know, so they didn't flesh out anything, but just gave you two Barry Allens, one that's super annoying and the other that's a little less annoying.
They are both pretty freaking annoying, in my opinion. Yeah. But I will say the actor who played young Barry did a great job. Yep. I'd love to see him in more things. I loved that was, I mean, there's not a whole lot that I loved about that movie. I mean, even the relationship between Barry's parents was not in the comic books, not the way the comic books was at all, because in the comic books, Nora wanted a divorce from Barry's dad, and you know that's how that whole situation happened, and whatever. But I mean, it was just a very kind of a shit show scenario of a Flash movie that they wanted to get out because they promised it to everybody a long time ago, and it sucked. And it wasn't even an origin story of a Flash. Like, I would have taken an origin story. Give me the origin story of Flash, because WB did a good job of it, but make it a movie. Give me that. But they didn't do it.
Yeah, they like, and the one, I think the biggest thing that bugged the living hell out of me, it spends a lot of time of Barry trying to clear his dad, and you find out how and why and blah blah blah. What they never mentioned once was who killed his mom. Mm-hmm. Never mentioned it.
That could have been an extra credit scene. Like,
they never mentioned it. They don't talk about it. All they talk about is clearing Henry Allen, which, by the way, I didn't like the recasting. I wish they would have kept Zack Snyder's actor that he chose from the movie. So I didn't like the recasting, but again, like, it was all about clearing his dad's name when he could have spent those 18 years finding who actually did it and making that his mission, kind of thing. But they don't touch on it. They don't talk about it. Never once do you hear him say, I wonder who killed my mom. Nope, I just need to clear my dad's name. Like, if you find the killer, you'll be able to clear your dad's name pretty, if you're thinking that way. But obviously, Thawne is the one who killed his mom in the comics. And that's like, in terms of top villains, he's in the top 5 easily.
Oh yeah,
because for those who don't know who he is, take everything that the Flash is and make him who he isn't. Make him a killer. Make him willing to fuck with the timeline. Make him willing to mess with the multiverse, because he does it. He's done it, and it's all because he hates Barry. Like, it's a great villain, easily top 5, and so much potential. And I saw that the director was like, well, in the second one, if we were to make a second one, Thawne would be the main antagonist. But you could have hinted that. You could have done something with that. Just
because the whole story behind Eobard Thawne and the Reverse Flash is such a great story and what could have been for a second movie, and teased it at the end, because again, that's how Barry's mom died in the comic books. But they didn't do that. They didn't give us any, and I was holding my breath the entire time to give me, you know, a hint of Reverse Flash. Give me a hint of something of a bigger baddie than General Zod.
Even Michael Shannon said he didn't feel satisfied with his performance. Like, he doesn't like comic book movies. He called Zack Snyder and said, "Hey, they want me to do this. What do you think?" And Zack Snyder said, "Of course, go ahead and do it." And he did it because he told him, "Go ahead and do it." He didn't do it because he wanted to do it. Which, if you watch the movie, you can tell. Like, you could just tell how he was just kind of dialed in terms of, I want to get my scenes done and get the fuck out of here. Like, it's disappointing to hear him say, "I didn't feel satisfied with it. There's nothing about it that made me, this is why I act." It's not his type of movies anymore, because he loved his version of Zod and Man of Steel, which he did good. He did great. But this movie, it just seemed like he was a villain because they needed a villain. And he yeah.
Because I love Michael Shannon. I think he's an amazing actor. I think he plays a great villain in everything he does. It's just one of those things. You're like, so much more could have come from this movie if people wanted to be there. And I mean, shit, there's so many different people from the Rogues Gallery of the Flash that they could have chosen from. And I get why they wanted to. I kind of get why they wanted to do this. I kind of understand why they wanted to keep it within the within the DCEU and with characters we already knew instead of introducing new ones. But there just could have been so much more.
Yeah, and they shot 3 endings for that movie. So, reaching the end of the show, I'm going to tell everybody right now, spoilers. Spoilers. If you haven't seen it, turn it off.
Stop watching right now, yes.
Yeah. So the ending shows him, he fixes what he did and thought he did the right thing. He ends up in a universe where it's a different Batman again. And Jason Momoa's Aquaman is constant in every universe. Dumb. Whatever. Made no sense. Didn't do anything for the movie. Hated it. But they shot 2 more endings, and one of the endings was he gets back, and Michael Keaton and Sacha Kaye were there, and now there's no more Batman. There's no more Ben Affleck as Batman. There's no more, which I hated his suit, by the way. Ben Affleck's suit was the worst suit I've seen. It sucks. I'm sorry they did that to him. But there would have been no Ben Affleck, and there would have been no Henry Cavill. Or maybe there would have been because they brought him back in Black Adam. But they didn't know what to do because they wanted Henry Cavill out. And then The Rock comes in and says, he's going to be a part of this movie. Like, I have to fight him if my movie does great. And it's going to do great because I'm The Rock. But whatever.
We'll talk about that in another episode.
Yeah, we'll have to review that one. But so then it would have ended with Michael Keaton, Sacha Kaye. They're in there. Doesn't explain why. And then it would have shown the after credits as Ben Affleck calling into Barry on his, his screens or whatever, and saying, "You need to find me." And that would have kicked off into like Infinite Crisis, which we can go in some other day. And then there was another ending where I think it was just Ben Affleck who showed up. Don't quote me on that. I think it was just Ben Affleck and everything was fine. Again, I can't remember. But they shot multiple endings. And with the way things unraveled at DC, with James Gunn taking over, they went with what they went with, which made 0 sense, which did nothing for the movie, which does nothing for closure. We'll never see those characters again if I were to be a betting man.
Yeah. Well, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and and I did too when we talked about that. This movie, in the grand scheme of things, mean nothing. We won't see these characters again. Fingers crossed we see Sacha Kaye again as Supergirl or somewhere in the superhero universe, because she was great. She was a great actress at it. She played it well. But who knows, and I would have killed to see Christian Bale come back as the Batman because he is my favorite Batman. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. We got a lot of the comic booky, campy bullshit Batmans, and people have their own feelings about Ben Affleck. I get it. In my opinion, he did better in his role as Batman in this movie than he did in the Snyderverse. But still, not my Batman. So, it's kind of hard. But Michael Keaton crushed it when he became Batman, and the nods to the Michael Keaton movies and the Batmobile and the Bat plane and shit like that. Like it was cool. I liked it. I liked those parts of it, but the movie itself just was not good. It was crap. In complete honesty, like I laughed. I was laughing at the movie. That's how bad I didn't like it.
My wife told me 3/4 of the way in, can I go wait in the truck? Like, that's how bad it was for her. So these audience scorings on Rotten Tomato, the critic scorings, if you were one of those people who gave it, a 99%, please
Tell us why.
Tell me why. Like, I'll be nice. I promise I'll be nice. I won't shit on anybody's opinion because that's what makes the world go round. But I want to know what you thought made it good, because I didn't think it was good. In the grand scheme of things, it's not on my list of movies that I'm bored, I want to watch something. That's not it.
No.
Just so if that's something that you were like, it was great, or my kids loved it, because it was a kids movie. Yes. Don't get me wrong. I think it was definitely a kids movie, and that could be because I'm getting old. Like, the future actors for future movies, they're going to be younger than me. Right. And I have to find a way to live with that. It's going to be so weird. But tell us why you liked it. Tell us if you agree with us. Last time I checked, audience score was 88%. That's a good movie on Rotten Tomatoes. That's up there with The Dark Knight. That's up there with a lot of Marvel movies. To me, Marvel's up here. That movie, you can't even see my hand. Like, that's how bad it was for me. So I want to know why you liked it. I want to know why you hated it. I want to know why you didn't go see it. Hell, tell me.
So, and just as of 4 hours ago, as I'm looking at this, so it'll change by the time this releases, but The Flash opened with 55 million in the US and 135.7 million worldwide. That's well under what they wanted, and it would be considered a flop. And so please tell us why. We're open-minded. We want to know what people's thoughts are. Maybe we're not looking at it in as objectively as we should be, but as comic book fans for DC and Marvel, it just wasn't what we wanted, what we expected from, well, it is what I expect from DC, who has been flailing the last 10 years on movies. They can't hold a candle to Marvel, and I might be biased because I'm a Marvel fan, but it's not what these movies can be, what these actors can do, what these storylines can bring. So please put it in the comments. Tell us what you think. If you want to come chat with us. We're more than happy to talk about these things with you too. So
I will gladly do a part 2 with somebody who loved it.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
Just that gives people more time to see it, and then that gives the different perspective of, I thought it was a great movie, and I'll try to be as civil as possible.
So with the next episode, with the end of this one, we thank you all for coming, and we'll let you know the next episode probably going to do, and I'm excited for, is kind of going to be a mixture of the two things. But I know Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is coming out, and I want to dive into that. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the other Indiana Jones movies and which, where it ranks on the things. The Crystal Skull is a piece of crap, so I don't even want to act like that exists. Come at me, bro, because that movie was absolute dog shit compared to everything else that Indiana Jones has done. But yeah, we got out what we wanted to talk about. We didn't spoil too much for those. So go see it. Go tell us what you think. I had fun on this episode talking about it, and I'm surprised actually you and I agreed on a lot of this shit. So
don't get used to it. Do not get used to it. Everybody out there, don't get used to it, because we're gonna have a Batman versus Superman episode someday, and Ryan and I might fight through the screen. I have no idea what's going to happen.
When I think someone did mention that they want us to, mention in one of the postings that we put out there, they want us to dive into the Batman versus Superman and the Snyderverse and kind of go into that. And I'm more than happy to do that because I fucking hated those movies. So with a passion. Christian Bale is my Batman. He will forever be my Batman, but that's a whole other thing we'll talk about later. So, Josh, thank you so much for doing this with me again tonight. I know, you're a co-host on this thing, and I love having you because of the different opinions we normally are going to fucking have. But any final thoughts for our fans out there, people out there who are listening?
Again, thank you for tuning in. This is so much fun. Getting texts, getting messages from people that I haven't talked to in a while. It's so refreshing. It's so awesome to hear you guys say, I can't wait for you guys to dive into this. That it's motivating. I don't expect this to be the biggest thing to happen to YouTube, but the fact that we had almost 300 people view our first episode makes me excited for this one. This one, we wanted to get out a version of just me and Ryan.
Mhm.
The next one's probably going to have a guest.
Mhm.
The ones from here on out will probably have guests, but we wanted to give you guys this is what Ryan and I would talk about in terms of, let's talk about a subject before we bring in a guest who's going to be great, whoever they are. But we wanted to just show you guys what you and I would be doing over some drinks.
Yeah.
So
And I love it. I love these conversations. And yes, we'll have guests on. For those of you out there watching, please come on, be here with us. But we'd also have conversations, just the two of you and I, because sometimes these, with the lives, how our lives go, it's gonna be hard to get some filmings in with a guest. We'll schedule as we can, but I love having these conversations with the two of us, especially when we get to the down and dirty of some things. I'd rather go one-on-one with you than have a guest, because you and I are going to go at each other on something. So I'm excited for that. But
for sure, it's going to be great content.
But everyone, thank you again for coming tonight. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Reach out to us, leave in the comments what you'd like us to talk about, or if you want to come on, or what your thoughts are in general about this show. I'm Cousin Ryan. Come find me on Twitter at Cousin Ryan 2021. Come check out my other show, Beyond the Neon Veil, on the Last American Heroes Network, as well as our other trivia show, Benny and Moose Save America, where I'm the bartender and I talk a lot of shit to our guests out there. I love that. Thank you all for coming. Josh, I know you're going to be watching the comments. You'll be watching all of that shit. Look for us on Facebook as we post these things on Facebook as well, because I know, Josh, you joined a lot of the nerdy different groups that are on there, and you're going to throw this out there too. So look for us, comment, and remember, for the YouTube channel, remember to like, click subscribe, or fuck off, because we're here for fun. So
exactly.
I had a great time.
Appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you next time. And drop a like, subscribe, watch all the other shows that I need to be featured on. I was the first one on Beyond the Neon Veil, but I need to get on that trivia show.
We're going to get you on that trivia show, especially since at some point they've been talking about getting the hosts against each other on these trivia shows. So you and I will have to battle it out with Benny and Moose on some stuff. So I'm excited for that. But
you guys are fucked.
Bring it on, assholes. Thanks again, everybody. We will see you all next time. Have a great night.